expectations are that the Aurelia will be taken off the board, but they're actually going to pivot over to the Rakan. So we only got 2 out of the 6, but you know what? It looks like nice to see that both these teams kind of adapting as the tournament continues.
And I think the Rakan ban is in direct, counter to the fact that they took Kench off the board, maybe without, being a pocket Braum player for Shalcy, not really confident in the Xayah Rakan matchup, don't really play it themselves. So just wanted to remove it from volatility.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair ban. Meanwhile, the Akali being taken away from Hanabi's back pocket, it's something that Hanabi showed a lot of proficiency on, so G2 showing that respect, and of course, they can flex it between top and mid themselves, but no surprise that Flash Wolves would answer with the Sylas. Typically a very strong matchup into the Akali. Now we're kind of expecting maybe the Rek'Sai or the Xin Zhao to come out from the side of Flash Wolves.
And just before Flash Wolves lock that in, interesting to note that this is the first time Akali has been locked in the MSI group stage for G2 Esports. We've seen the Sylas, we've seen the Irelia, and there is the Rek'Sai that you were anticipating. Now G2, where do they reveal their next pick?
So we're expecting some bottom lane priority for G2. We think that they like to be able to secure a strong matchup and leave the ambiguity of a flex pick open here. We know that they've got terrific Akali players, and whilst we haven't seen it prioritized yet this tournament, I have no doubt that both Wunder and Caps will play this champion to such a high degree.
Ooh, they're actually just going to leave the Rise up and go for the Aurelia. Now, Wunder was the main Aurelia player during the regular season of the LEC, but when we saw it played by Caps yesterday, he didn't have the best of games, but to be fair, against Fongfu Buffalo, no one on G2 really had a good game. So now they're heading towards that direction. With their 2 solo laners picked up, I wonder if they're going to prioritize jungle or support right now.
Yeah, and jungle would make so much sense to me, just because taking a half of a bottom lane isn't really going to protect you any from the draft. You can still be attacked down there. However, if they take away the jungle champion pool, then you can make the solo laners a little bit more of a liability, especially given the fact that Flash Wolves already had theirs available. To match the picks would also make a lot of sense for me here, Vetty. It's not what we've seen from Rather, but it does make sense when you have a look at what G2 solo laners currently bring.
I would actually have loved to see the LeBlanc come out, because I feel like that it does fantastically into the Akali, and it kind of forces either the Aurelia to go into the mid lane, where you can then look to flex it around, or you can look to punish it with a Rek'Sai, but instead they're going to try and get Betty one of his big comfort picks. Kai'Sa was something that he played the most of during the regular season, and honestly, something he's played a lot of in this tournament. And they're now kind of setting up for either a Kai'Sa Galio or a Kai'Sa Nautilus, both very potent bot lanes for Flash Wolves.
And the reason this is easier to do on red side is because they're going to be able to dictate the bans now. Then they will have first pick coming out of this stage of the draft as well. Ultimately means they can leave counter pick for Rather down to the very last pick if they wish to hide something as well. I like the adaptations in draft here from Flash Wolves.
All right, we're into phase 2. Braum is banned away. Galio was banned during the first phase. Gangplank is now added to the pool as well. Just an interesting tidbit that both Perks and Wunder have run a unique champion every single game of the group stage thus far. If that Akali ends up in Wunder's hands and we see what Perks wants to run in the bot lane, there'll be little shenanigans afoot, and there's a Kalista ban in phase 2.
Wanted to tie into your point, Spawn, from earlier, where right now Flash Wolves are very clearly saying we're going for Nautilus. We're going to lock that one in. Your G2, we don't think you're going to have many answers to it, but right now I'm thinking of something like the Morgana. And the fact that G2 have chosen not to ban the Nautilus suggests to me that they must have something prepared, and they're more than fine giving that pick over to Shalcy.
Especially when we've seen G2 run multiple different kinds of counters. The counter where we're going to try and run something to beat you in lane, or that we're willing to hold up 2v1 in this lane and potentially look to roam around the map. That's the thing that gets fans excited about G2. They don't play the League of Legends necessarily by the similar rules as other teams, and they are willing to flex that.
Ooh, we're actually seeing a pivot, so Flash Wolves taking it to the next level, and oh, hang on, immediate Draven lock-in. We'll get to that one in a second, but there's the Morgana that we were talking about, Spawn. The thing is from Flash Wolves is they wanted to have the choice to go for the counter pick. The problem by not locking in the Nautilus right now, well actually I say the problem, the advantage of not locking in the Nautilus now is they can pivot away from playing into the Morgana. I'd be very surprised if they voluntarily pick this matchup, because it gives a lot of bot lane priority over to the G2 duo.
And not only that, you'd have counter pick in both positions now. You know, Draven historically has been seen as that counter pick to the Kai'Sa, just out ranges, out damage early in the game. So Flash will say, you know what, we've team fight, we pick for team fight a lot in the bottom lane. We're still going to stick to our guns, but you would have to say that the way this draft went is heavily G2 focused right now. The flexibility of the solo laners, the tie-in jungler for the top side of the map, and then counter pick bottom lane. Kind of every box we wanted G2 to hit coming into this game.
I feel like G2 can be very happy with their draft, and we didn't touch much on the Sejuani, but it does bring that extra engage for the team that has multiple split pushes. So even though Akali and Aurelia often work in this 1-3-1, Akali and Aurelia often one of the best split pushes at team fighting as well. So you combine that with a Draven with a Black Shield and the Sejuani ultimate, G2 have options to fight around these neutral objectives.
In saying that, Flash Wolves is all about the team fight, so I don't expect the collapse to come in. I expect the isolation, the separation, play the map, get the experience leads, because we saw against Flash Wolves yesterday, TL kept fighting and they just kept losing against this LMS squad.
Oh, it's going to be interesting to see what G2 can put on the board. Perkz is his third Draven game this year. He's won one and lost one back in the LEC, but the stakes are significantly higher. If G2 Esports take down Flash Wolves right now, they will guarantee themselves a spot in the best of fives, in the top 4 at MSI going into the semi-finals. G2 Esports, let's find out whether or not they can do it as they take on Flash Wolves here. And while G2 Esports can secure themselves a spot, Flash Wolves are still fighting for their right to survive. They are sitting at 2 wins and 4 losses, and they are tied with Team Liquid behind SK Telecom at 3-3. And if you look at the mini-map, as it stands, Flash Wolves have got themselves grouped up around that banana bush and pushing forward into G2 territory.
And you can see the immediately ward drop here from Perkz will spot out the invade. On the flip side of the map, Boogie also warded very earlier, then took up the mid lane position. Both teams obviously expecting some level 1 aggression.
I thought the Flash Wolves may look to consider trying to split the map, because one thing you've always got to be careful with the Draven Morgana lane is that they get that early gank assist and then suddenly that lane becomes out of control. So by forcing Jankos up towards the top side, yes, it runs the risk of having Radha and Hanabi put behind in the 1-versus-1, but the advantage is the Draven or Morgana are left isolated and they can't play as aggressively as they normally do.
And you can see right there that Betty shows himself trying to dissuade any of that aggression and captured Roan down into the bottom lane. They obviously do want to protect Boogie's positioning on his first clear. Would not be surprised to see, you know, as you mentioned, the convergence of the jungler around that bottom lane Scuttle Crab and the fight for priority to be very hard.
We'll see whether or not any engages come from that Scuttle Crab spawn. I'm taking a look down. Summoner spells, a couple of teleports on both sides of the Rift and the solo laners. Conqueror obviously sitting on both sides. Solo laners for G2. And of course the Klepto Draven, something that we have seen a fair amount when Draven is played this year.
But also the Exhaust sitting on top of the Morgana as well. Typically, when you're drafting in a Draven lane, the Ignite adds that extra bit of kill pressure. So the Exhaust is saying, you know what, we want that extra bit of survivability, but it's so valuable against Kennen in these team fights. If he's diving onto multiple members, the amount of damage mitigated thanks to that Exhaust can shift a team fight into G2.
Especially given the fact that they want to play heavy lane. Bully Hook will go wide there from Xiaoxi. You don't have the luxury of running the spellbook right now for Mickey because you want to win the lane. The Guardian's going to be incredibly important. So I do like that he's just committed to that summoner spell for the late game team fight. And this is interesting to me from Flash Wolves because they're converging on the top side of the map as well. Could have been maybe a wave stacking into kind of be quicker than he would have liked, so therefore jungler has to path towards it. But Boogie ending up on a side of the map where I would expect Hanabi in the early stages to try and play a little bit safer, given, you know, the synergy between something like a Sejuani Aurelia gate.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised because in terms of the pathing, Boogie started on his blue, he then went to red into top Krugs, that's the Badger. And then, so he actually had no priority over either Scuttle Crab, meaning that he relied on his bot lane to secure it. And if Sejuani had taken that path, then she could have potentially secured bot Scuttle into top as well. So yeah, I feel like it was a bit of a dangerous path, but it does guarantee him level 3. And now he's going to convert it into the Raptors as well.
So my assumption here is, given the fact there's a Targons in the bottom lane and maybe a little bit more AoE coming out of something like a Kai'Sa, worried that with, you know, Silas, who we always talk about the push, bottom Crab was going to be off kind of the card. So Wonder fought for priority very nicely. Hanabi didn't want to give the gank over, and that's why, you know, potentially Jankos was looking at the top Crab, and Boogie just backed away completely.
And there we go. No shenanigans afoot as Wonder's able to farm up underneath the tower. And we'll see what sort of impact this has in the coming minutes, because Mickey and Perks slowly pushing that wave back, but it does meet somewhat in the middle as Boogie has recalled, as has Yankos. They've both picked up those chilling smites and now starting to make their way down towards the relative lanes.
Now, I want to draw viewers' attentions to the rune choice coming out from Caps. We've seen a number of Akalis playing mid lane up against Silas, and one of the most common rune choices that you'll see is Fleet Footwork, because when playing up against the Silas, you often lose a lot of early game trades, which means that you want to go for a little bit more sustain, because whenever this happens, you want to be able to fight back, right? So you run the teleport, the Fleet Footwork, and you just try to get to laning. You just try to want to scale up, get that first item. But by going for the Conqueror, this suggests to me that he's looking for those more drawn-out fights and like constantly building up those stacks, hoping that he can out-trade the Silas later on.
I completely agree. I think that this is a side lane rune choice when we have a look at it. I think that if you're running something like the Fleet, it's because you're worried about getting through lane. Cap's obviously trusting in his individual skill to be able to do that. We see even further aggression down in this bottom lane.
We keep holding our breath every time it happens because there is so much kill threat really on both sides, with a lot of burst damage and a lot of CC.
As well as junglers pathing bottom, so it looked like the heavy trades was a deliberate choice from Perks and Mickey, and you were just waiting for them to pull the trigger on that engage. However, once again, you have to say that this is a good match out of Boogie to be down where his team needs it.
Look, neither team is falling behind yet. With 5 minutes in of farming, and this is the first real gank that we've seen, Caps may need to blow the flash, holds on to it for now. Boogie's looking to chase further forward and didn't manage to fire anything more than the Prey Seeker. So Caps escapes with his life.
Oh.
Now down the bottom lane. It's all in. Perks flashes to safety. Summoner heal's already used. Mickey continues to run. He's already used the exhaust. Now he flashes to safety. Dark Binding will buy some time, but one more auto is not in range. Nobody goes down, and listen to the crowd.
And you talk about volatility, 4 summoner spells burnt in that trade. Flash Wolves, however, will get the advantage. They force them out of lane. CS and experience going to be in their favor.
And we talked about it in the draft, the consistency that's been coming out from Betty this tournament. He demonstrates it once again here. Finding a successful 2v2 trade against the G2 duo will net them big advantages down towards the bot side.
While that was going on, Yankos finds Boogie up in the top quadrant of the map, pushes him a little bit away from his Krugs, and he just provides some additional cover for Wonder. Cap starts to go in and out, trading now with Rather. Rather has hijacked himself a perfect execution. We need to keep a close eye because either of these champions can just insta-burst down. Dark Binding finds a target. Mickey, only level 4, can't chase further. Rather, decides to chase away. Caps has gone too deep, caught by a dredge line, and he bit off more than he could chew.
And once again, credit to the support staff of Flash Wolves because they are tracking the G2 members. Second to the gank, but it pays off.
And Flash Wolves, they didn't even have any vision on the minimap. It's just a tendency that we often see from Mickey, where after he does his first base at level 4, he looks for a roam, but Xiaoxi is there to match. Boogie, fortunately, is in a position where he can help with the counter gank, and the moment Caps tries to tower dive, he immediately gets punished. Beautiful stuff from the Flash Wolves. They get first blood.
Eyes on the dragon as well. You can see Perks dips his head into the river afterwards. And initially, this looks great from Mickey. It gets the ultimate out. You do have to question the over-aggression. Caps, even if he had have picked up the kill, certainly would have needed to burn a summoner spell at the minimum. Bit a little bit too far.
And great execution there from Rather as well, because the moment that Caps was underneath the tower, Rather hits him with the W, gets a huge burst of heal as well. So all that execution damage that's supposed to come out from Akali, it looked like he didn't even do any. So there was no situation where he could trade the 1-for-1, and Rather comes out on top.
I feel anxious as a European viewer now when I see Rather's competency on the Silas. He has been going toe-to-toe with Caps and willing to pick those fights and trades. And, you know, he's got this advantage with the assist under his belt. And I need to see how this mid lane is going to continue to play out, and whether or not Caps can, you know, control himself a little more.
And honestly, this ties back in with a bit of a criticism that I've had for G2 over the last few days, which is that their early game seems to have gotten worse from what we saw in day 1 throughout the rest of the tournament. And like, you only have to look at their Fongfu Buffalo game yesterday to really iterate how poor some of their early game decision making has been. And whether it's due to confidence or whether it's down to poor execution, G2 have fumbled, and it is ways in which teams have found avenues to attack them.
But you do have to draw to the mental fortitude that they have, because it looks like in these games, it's not really getting on top of them. Sure, they've had some rough early games, but against SK Telecom, it was a similar story. They stuck to their plans. They're very coached, and they're just able to continue into what wins them games, even with deficits. So whilst they have made a fumble here, I have no qualm saying Caps will fight his way back into this game.
Absolutely the case. I mean, it's a 600 goal lead in favor of Flash Wolves. This is by no means game winning yet. Just as an update, the players on stage have requested the stage lighting be adjusted for their comfort. So while we tweak some of the lighting on stage over in Vietnam, we'll carry on chatting about this matchup. But I just want to allude to the G2 mentality. This is a squad of friends and jokers and jesters to a degree. And losing even in some of the manners they had, like to PvB yesterday, I don't believe it weighs on a team like this because of the way that they approach the game and how their team environment is built.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is a team that has like the great, championship mindset coupled with some hungry players from teams that didn't necessarily have the success that they wanted on the international stage. Some veterans, some new blood in there as well. They seem to have got that perfect balance of what you need to bring together. And then they're also selfless when they play the game. That's the most impressive thing to me. We talk about these super teams. The fact that everyone can carry on this lineup and they let everyone carry is just so impressive.
And there's a lot of similarities when you look over at the Flash Wolf roster. They had to rebuild around Betty, who has been sort of the mainstay carry, but rather, who I was not a huge fan of at the beginning of the group stage, he has won me over. His Orianna play was almost like an assassin in the ways that he was making those shockwaves work, especially against the likes of G2 and Perks. And as we can see, Betty and Xiao Si, I thought there may have been some engages there from Jankos. It didn't work.
Yeah, it certainly didn't want to pull the trigger there. I think, once again, just trying to allow his team to push in a little bit more safely. One thing I will say about G2 is Flash Wolves, this is a team that didn't have the best regular season. However, came into the best of fives very prepared, especially the Mad team best of five. And I think that even throughout, the play in BO5, they showed that they are very good at scouting out what a team wants to be able to do and then enacting the counterpoint for it.
And what's fascinating to me about this Flash Wolves and the old iteration of Flash Wolves is the old Flash Wolves always used to come into tournaments looking extremely strong. They actually upset a lot of teams, and then eventually they'd get figured out. Whereas this team seems to be the exact opposite as they slowly start to ramp up. As Jankos just gets eliminated.
Jankos was stood on top of a ward. He had his ultimate stolen away, and yet he still pathed down towards the bottom lane. Easy punish for Flash Wolves, and it's not a mistake you can afford to keep giving this team who is ramping up. Flash Wolves 2-0 up and now 1,000 gold in the lead.
However, in this time, Caps has dug into Fog of War. Hanabi has a pushing wave. You can see how hesitant he is to go forward.
So close. I'm waiting to see whether or not Caps jumps out. The observers have toggled the G2 and Flash Wolves' respective visions, so obviously Hanabi wasn't aware. Caps decides not to waste more time. The minion wave is crashing into his tower, and he's gone back.
And you can see that potentially right now G2 want to play towards the top side of the map because they've got the two control wards in the bottom side river. This shows me as potentially a hook is on.
All right, Dredgeline will find its target. That's an easy stun onto Xiaoxi, but Mickey's dropped so low. Whirling Death and one more spinning axe allows Perks to pick up the kill. I didn't see what the bonus gold was on the minimap. Rather, had already left lane, and G2 are on the board.
Yeah, they certainly are. That's a great gank enacted after, this proper vision set up here for the G2 lineup.
All right, another engage in the middle lane as Rather and Caps are trading back and forth. Hijack is on cooldown, so Rather can't get the perfect execution. And G2 Esports, they claw back the gold deficit.
So even though we see Flash Wolves being the more proactive team in the early game, punishing the mistakes from G2, the gold is surprisingly even. A lot of it is coming down to the fact that Pokes just picked up this massive shutdown on the Draven, and he's now sitting at a healthy amount of gold. He's actually built up a 500 gold lead up against his lane counterpart. But it's fascinating how Rather actually has an XP advantage in the mid lane. Betty is a whole level up over Perks. So, this game is still hilariously close, even though Draven just picked up a massive shutdown goal.
And quite an early Ocean Drake picked up in what is becoming a volatile laning phase. Will swing this, I think, a little bit further into the Flash Wolves' favor. Shades of this Draven build reminds me a little bit of Bankflank. You got the Klepto to start taking up some gold. You got the fact that you only need to be able to CS well. One kill changes kind of the course of what the bottom lane of the map looked like it was taking.
I mean, it does. There's still a 10 CS advantage in a completed Storm Razor, but here's a replay of how Perks got the kill.
So here we see a pushing wave working its way towards G2's duo. So Flash Wolves feel confident to try and force this because it looks like G2's overextended. They don't expect Jankos to, after just dying, immediately walk in through the lane. So they end up getting punished for a slight overstep.
And let's talk about why they didn't expect Jankos there. He had cleared his bottom jungle and then had the full top jungle available, and Caps was rotating up there. So there was no vision top side. In any other case of a jungler, you would generally go up, clear your full topside jungle, look for a gank onto the Aurelia lane. That seems to be the area that G2 like to attack. but they bucked the trend once again and surprised the Flash.
And something that we've said many times before about the Flash Wolf spawn is that they are a creature of habit. Even though they are a team that has shown growth, they still often rely on a lot of the old traits that they found so much success with over in the LMS, which is secure an early Drake. Once you've got it, rotate your bot up towards the top side and get yourself that Rift Herald. And once they have an early lead, I feel like they are a team that knows how to move around the map with it.
Well, 1, 2, and 3. Every tick point that we've seen from their local league has come true. First Drake picked up, first Herald picked up. The duo lane continues to siege and put pressure on the top lane, and Rather has already used that hijack. Jankos sitting with the ultimate available if he wants to jump in. Is not going to do so just yet. Instead, we take a look. Hanabi pushing the bot lane. The duos are now battling up top.
And you can see that this is, Hook just spell shielded out there. This is the kind of game that Flash Wolves love to play because they're taking the first step and actually making what is normally a very proactive G2 team slightly reactive to the pace of the game in saying that still great scaling in this lineup, still a very good 1-3-1 comp. So I feel like Flash Wolves doing the right steps for now, but we'll see whether some of these mistakes that we've seen in their gameplay creep in.
Now, Flash Wolves are utilizing this Rift Herald to just invest more gold into Betty. They want to close the gold gap as much as they can between the Kai'Sa and the Draven, and you'll see 320 gold picked, effectively a kill, put into the back pockets of Betty. So that will definitely help him a lot, and while it won't secure a major objective, it just keeps the game relatively even, and now Flash Wolves have gained a slight gold advantage back in their favor.
I mean, the gold values are even between those bot laners. You can see Perks and Betty sitting just shy of 5,000 gold. First big items are coming in pretty much across the board. Wits in, sitting for Wonders Aurelia, Proto Belt for Hanabi's Cannon. And Boogie's now making his way into this top lane. No boots, but he's got the Warrior enchant. I'm looking for the Black Shield if it's available. Gonna throw him down a little bit late. Exhaust is buying some time. Soul Shackles into stopwatch. Whirling Death comes out, and G2 obliterate the first kill. But it's ADC for ADC. As a dash and a pop and a dazzle means that Caps gets on the board. Now Rather's taken down, and Hanabi runs for his life.
Mickey with the beautiful Morgana play to set up the 3-man stun to allow the rest of Jankos to get that collapse. Teleports came in from all over the map, but it was G2 that ended up coming out on top.
And it was because they arose first, Betty. This is a team that is so quick on the trigger. Just impressive collapse. And that looked like a free gank because the Black Shield, I believe, started on cooldown there. You saw it used in the laning phase. You saw the aggressive posturing, but G2 read the player and able to collapse.
Zero hesitation. Everybody threw their champions into the top lane. And as you mentioned, that exhaust a few minutes ago, Vedius, coming in crucially to keep Perks alive as it started. Now, Hanabi did not use his flash, and Jankos stood on top of a ward, or he's clearing out the ward, rather. Means that Hanabi's not going to get dove, but I held my breath and we can finally see this replay.
So Boogie in a great position, he gets a good knockup, the Black Shield comes out late, knowing that, okay, the CC's already been applied, so get what we can, but look at that 3-man stun coming out from Mickey. Sets up for a perfect ultimate from Perks to then follow in from the chain CC from the rest of G2. We don't have time as another fight kicks off.
Yes, it does. Mickey finally uses his flash, continues to run for his life, dropped down to 150 HP. Betty's Icathian Rain was unable to pick up the kill, but a 3-man stack for the Flash Wolves should help them secure the first tower of the game. Looking at the minimap, Caps was making his way down, but there's no initiation opportunities yet.
I love that Flash Wolves are not slowing down. Throughout this game, Boogie has just been invested in getting this duo ahead. He's found multiple successful ganks, and just there they nearly got another kill onto Mickey. By forcing out his flash and knowing that there was no double teleport on the side of G2, they could secure the first tower of the game, and once again, reclaim that slight gold advantage.
And we'll see what they set up for now, because I would expect them to redeploy towards that bottom lane and go for the drag. And we keep talking about it, a predictable team in the Flash Wolves do like to fight around objectives. You know, the other play I would have liked to have seen is, you know, top turret is a hair's breadth away from being pushed over. It's only going to be an equalizing Ocean Drake, maybe seed, and look to trade for the gold objective.
I really want to draw viewers' attention to the minimap right now, because you'll notice how much vision is being invested from both teams. There are wards scattered everywhere, but it's G2 starts off the fight.
They are indeed. Caps may already have won the fight before it's even started. Xiaoxi and Betty are just obliterated. Wonder and Caps double team the bottom lane, but now all of a sudden Wonder's in trouble. He gets unburrowed and taken up. A beautiful 3-man stun. gets Wonder to safety. He was looking for the dive onto Hanabi and was unable to find it. Now rather, he's chasing forward and the Dragon's still available.
And G2 preying on the tendencies of the Flash Wolves. If we know where the Flash Wolves are going to return, G2 do as well. They set up fantastic vision and win the fight.
This is one of those situations where G2, they know what the textbook play is, and they look to ways to just rip those pages apart. Flash Wolves, there was no dance back and forth for the battle of vision. It was just G2 see an opportunity and go.
Bedius, you were trying to draw the pages of the textbook, not even anticipating G2's hyper aggro read on the situation. And literally as soon as you started highlighting the vision, G2 pounced on the opportunity. And it's that decision making that is allowing G2 to sit in control of second place right now. Decisive, proactive play in the mid game.
And I want to draw attention to the solo laner items of G2 right now. We've got a Wit's End picked up for Wonder, as well as the making of what is going to be the Burning Face Liandry's Torment for Caps. Now, why is that important? Well, double AP solo lanes, so the Wit's End going to shut down both those sides, and then matched with the Conqueror, the ramped damage as Cap stays in combat for longer and longer in this side lane, makes his build less bursty and a lot more, continue to skirmish 1v1.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is something that he's just specifically itemized for the Silas, but have a look at this. Cap's just sitting in the fog of war right now, immediately just dives onto Betty and obliterates him. There's no answer. The rest of Flash Wolves are just kind of spaciously moving in towards the Dragon Pit, even though they have no vision. Remember all that vision we were pointing out earlier? They felt like they had a pretty good read on what the situation of G2 was. They were like, oh, they started the Drake. We can start to make our way forward. We can start to set up for this play, but they don't have an opportunity, and G2 just pounce on top of them.
And in that replay, we saw the power of that Morgana Black Shield. It did not interrupt Caps despite him getting caught by Nautilus. And remember that Xiaoxi and Flash Wolves still opted into this Nautilus pick even after seeing that Morgana. I want to see whether or not Mickey's Morgana continues to be pivotal. 0-0-5 right now. He is joining the rest of the squad in this upper quadrant and is still a Bramble back.
Now the gold is still very even. And we kind of got to remind people of what we talked about in terms of win conditions. Flash Wolves are looking for this big team fight, whereas G2 are going to be looking to play along the side lanes, look for these skirmishes, look to try and find these 2v2s and 3 versus 3s. Things will get a little bit harder for the Flash Wolves once Wonder completes his Trinity Force, and arguably when Caps completes that Liandry's. So what they're looking for is ideally a setup around the Baron, because while it is not spawning yet, they just need to buy their time, wait for those second items to be completed. Looks like Morello is going to be coming out from Hanabi. It looks like the Rage Blade is going to be coming out from Betty. Once those are done, then they're in a much better situation to find a successful 5 versus 5.
Because we're looking at the earlier spiking, as you mentioned, Proto Bells coming out from the solo laners, the ability to explode onto a backline if the correct flank is found. However, this is where the 1-3-1 becomes oppressive to play under, because there is no objective to force the G2 lineup to go to. At this stage of the game, they're playing with push in all 3 lanes. Boogie has to pick his poison. If you choose wrong, you will lose control of the rest of the map.
Let's keep eyes on the vision and whether or not Flash Wolves can actually, force G2's hands and try goad them or persuade them into that team fight spawn, because it is not an easy task. And you can see G2 1-3-1 enabled, Wonder in the top lane, Caps in the bot lane, Mickey, Perks, and Jankos, after pushing the wave in, have peeled away, and they're going to start looking at Rather in this top lane out of turret. You see Jankos just out of vision.
And Boogie just dodging out of a bind as well. You can see how cautious they are moving through the jungle. This is what G2 do. They suffocate your vision. You must take the long way, and then they just pick up the gold.
Beautiful execution of the 1-3-1 from G2. The important thing to note, once again, if I draw your attention to the minimap, see how the Akali pushed in the bot lane, walked up through river, and then again gained priority through mid, while the rest of G2 moved up towards the top side to then take down the tower. Excellently well done, and a great utilization of exactly what you were talking about, Spawn. Have priority in all 3 lanes, moving between them and slowly taking down these objectives.
What it is resulting in is a 1,000 gold lead for G2 Esports, 6 kills to 3, 1 tower to 1. Those big items have just been picked up. Spawn, Liandry's Torment for Caps, Trinity Force for Wonder, BT, as well as another BF sword sitting in Perks' back pocket. So everybody is continuing to scale up. It's 21 minutes. It is still even gold. So as long as G2 can keep Flash Wolves at arm's length and use this 1-3-1 to their intended purpose, that's fine. But they've got to be very, very careful if a team fight breaks out, because as a death ball, Flashwell's comp is terrifying.
And that's why we're seeing sweepers with jungle and support off cooldown, because they have to get rid of the flanking wards. If they go for one of these plays, it's scouted out, there's a flanking ward, and you know, Hanabi can get on the backline. It's a different tale, but as long as they play this control, measured style, there is no response right now for the Flash Wolves.
All right, Caps has jumped in. He's still got that perfect execution. So does Rather now. Gets stolen away, traded, and Caps doesn't even lose 10% of his HP. If LoL Esports Instagram doesn't do a mechanics of that, then I'm going to be disappointed, because that was just flawless.
Let's not forget that it was Caps who was finding the solo kill on Jensen in the reverse matchup. The guy demonstrating that with just slight changes in the build path, going for the Conquer, going for the early Leandries, it gives you so much extra dueling power in this 1 versus 1. Beautiful development of the build from Caps.
Especially that when you think about it, the ability for Shroud to keep you in combat for longer period of times whilst not being under danger makes the Leandries quite easy to stack up in that regard. And with all of this map pressure, you can see that now as Flashwell's playing very much on the back foot. Just in the last few moments, all the outer turrets go down, the Cloud Drake goes over to G2, they have control.
Spawn, just like that, you blink and it's a 3,000 gold lead. As you mentioned, the towers have fallen, the kill is secured. All right, stun comes out here from Wonder. He's looking for the dash. Vanguard's edge goes out, buying some time. Teleport's starting to be channeled. Flash has already been used. Wonder is shut down, taken down as Caps completes the teleport. Now he's going to make it in range for Mickey. Mickey's going to throw down the black shield, but there was no other support. Perks and Yankos were not there, and it cost a teleport from G2.
Now Flash Wars finally find a good punish as Wonder overstays. There was nothing on the rest of the map for G2 to get, but now Xiaoxi might be caught out himself.
All right, Caps is looking to burst him down. He's got the black shield on. Flash is available if needed. Whirling Death comes out. Xiaoxi flashes to safety. There goes Caps. Picks it up with a 5-point strike. Now Rather's running for his life. He stole away an ulti, but I didn't quite see what it was. Now there comes the slicing maelstrom. Hanabi stuck in the thick of it. Goes golden thanks to the use of the hourglass. The tower's falling in the back end as now Boogie is trying to zone away. Mickey gets jumped on by Betty. Betty gets one. Now all of a sudden G2 are running for their lives. Teleport being channeled. Can Wonder be the hero? All of a sudden Rather gets another in the back end. That's under Unburrow underneath. Betty chases, turns around, back into Perks. They trade 1 for 1. This is a slaughterhouse with everybody taking one another down, and it's Wonder that closes it out.
Wow, what an insane fight between the two teams. Extremely close, but it is G2 that just barely come out on top. Remember, this all started off with Wonder getting picked off, but then G2, they actually tried to go for a 4 versus 5 by starting off by looking for a pick onto Xiaoxi.
And just the changes in the teleports, in times gone by, that would have been a cancel. There wouldn't have been this many people on the top side of the jungle, but there was, and the confidence of G2 comes out. As you mentioned, genuine 4v5 with the members of G2 trailing to the fight, but still looking for those kills.
I mean, initially it looks like a 2 versus 4, you know? Caps just doing what he can to buy time for the rest of his team to show up, and Benny slowly making his way on the flank. So Hanabi does a great job of buying time, but when the map splits up, this is when the solo laners of G2 start to pop off.
And again, Betty, it's just Mickey's exhaust that makes sure that the health bar's a little bit more topped off than we would have expected from this proto belt cannon. And then Caps and Perks happy to play cleanup through. You can argue about, you know, the patience of Perks here waiting for the solo laners to come in, but this is how they play. They want to be fast, and they're catching the Flash Wolves off guard.
I didn't see it at the time, but Rather had stolen away the soul shackles. Nobody chased him long enough to get the stun. And as we come out of the replay, it's still a 4,000 gold lead in favor of G2 Esports. 2.5 big items across the board, but I see a terrifying Kai'Sa with the Rageblade Storm Racers as well as a Hextron.
Yeah, and G2 right now are starting up the Baron because they're the only team without teleport available. They need to force Hanabi to use it. They might just be able to take this one in fog.
Yeah, I don't really know how low it is. They've decided to peel away as the engage comes in. Caps is looking for Xiaoxi, goes immune thanks to the Shroud. That's unstoppable already. Continuing to chase a little further. Rather stole away the perfect execution, but look at the minimap. Hanabi, he's going to get out of range of the stun. One is looking to chase him down though, and Hanabi may be able to use this blast cone for some additional distance. Hops over the wall, but if you look at the minimap, he's starting to be challenged. A teleport just for this? That's fantastic, and he's going to escape, get the Vanguard's edge as well.
And G2 get exactly what they want. They get the teleport, but they also pick up a kill. That is just such aggression out of Cap.
Can we also just appreciate how disgusting the Morgana-Akali duo is? The black shield onto an Akali that's just running in your face. What can you do about it? Like, there's absolutely no options other than to just sit there and die when you have so much damage on Caps, level 15, 2 major items completed, even picking up the Oblivion Orb as well. Caps is so strong, and every time Flash Wolves try to walk into their own jungle, there's the risk of someone dying.
And it's so important to note that Flash Wolves want a team fight. They want a 5v5 sort of front-to-back, head-on style fight. Maybe they can flank with Hanabi, of course. They're not getting that. That previous big exchanges that we've seen spawn has been when G2 have teleported in and finished what Flash Wolves started.
Yeah, and that makes the game very difficult for Flash Wolves to play, because if you're not winning the split push and you're not winning the team fight, well, G2 are kind of beating you at both areas of the game, not to mention that now Hanabi's teleport is very far behind both Caps and Wonders.
Well, Freddy's gone. That was just, you know, Jankos hopping over the wall. A little bit of an Arctic assault, and this will open up the tower. G2 Esports, when they have found a kill, many times it has been flawless and clean. Tower number 4 falling in G2's favor. They're now setting their sights on the inhibitor turret. There's simply not enough power to defend. Wonder's going to look for the stun and not find it yet. Where's the rest of the minimap? Rather, defending the top lane with the help of Boogie, and Perks is now trying to push Hanabi away. Caps holds on to 2. The inhibitor falls. G2 are not done yet. Continue to step forward, literally just pushing Flash Wolves to the absolute brink.
And they go for the pick on top lane. They do try and go for the creative play. There is an Infernal Dragon as well as Baron available. But Caps, you know, plays a little bit safer this time around, able to back away. And G2, as they withdraw, just taking all the resources off the map, this has been such an impressive mid-game after what was a disappointing early game. And this is why, you know, analysts are so excited about the different areas that G2 can beat you. It's not just come out and blitz early game. They've shown in back-to-back games now that if things go all right, they stick to the plan and they're able to bring it back.
I mean, this is the thing, right? So Flash Wolves, the thing that makes me happy is that Flash Wolves are continuing to prove their early game.
Sure.
Right? Now, the question marks is how well they're transitioning that early into an effective mid-game. And unfortunately for them, one of G2's biggest strengths is their 10 to 25-minute mark, when they complete their first items and they can start moving around the map. And unfortunately, Flash Wolves haven't really been able to set up for a situation where they could get the ideal fight, because again, G2 are just so good at finding those small windows to look for picks, go for skirmishes, and find those small fights.
And in so many of the plays so far, it's been that half a second, you know, very confident communication that it has allowed G2 to get the edge. They didn't play this game from an advantage. You know, they were taking 5v5 team fights, so not even necessarily with the better comp. But what they did have is the communication and the confidence to be able to go for their plays and secure it. And now continuing to bait around this Baron area.
So now Flash Wolves, their best bet is to try and steal away the Baron or get a good fight in the Baron. But unfortunately, they're slowly being starved out of vision. The entire top side of the map has gone completely dark, and the bright side for them is that G2 don't have necessarily the fastest Baron, but if you can't even approach the Baron, how exactly are you going to stop it?
And if you can't win a team fight, because Mickey still has exhaust every time Hanabi comes in, regardless of whether it's a level 16 cannon, he's just been shut out.
All right, Baron being dropped down, 50% HP. Boogie, Shalsi making their way up. Caps decides to engage. Remember that Black Shield does so much work. Baron's already picked up. Rather is now caught in and amidst the G2 members. He's trying to escape. He's got a stolen Morgana ultimate. Maybe that will become pivotal, but with Baron and 8,000 gold in the lead, there's a teleport going bot lane. G2 are just going to play the map to perfection.
And this is the part of the G2 game that I love to see. When they think that they are minutes away from winning, when they're willing to burn resources to set up the wave exactly how they want them and go for that death hunt.
It's a beautiful execution on how to push your advantage. They're not going too aggro, they're not taking these risks, and Flash Wolves, the number of options that they have are dwindling.
Just as a reminder, of course, G2 win this game, they guarantee themselves a top 4, but their sights are not set on top 4. They're looking for a minimum of top 2. They do not want to be in that 3rd or 4th spot, and if IG wins out, be one of the teams that could be picked. Let's see how this final siege plays out. Flash Wolves, on the other hand, they're still fighting. That's a gigantic spinning axe, but look at that. The Black Shield comes out. Perks easily able to step away. Flashes to safety. The Whirling Death has already been thrown out. Vanguard's Edge comes down. Perks takes out Rather. That's a stun onto Shalsi. He will be the next to fall. That's a double kill for Perks, G2's captain. They turn their attention further. Hanabi, defensive slicing Maelstrom. He's running for his life. Perks almost finds a triple kill. Not going to be lucky with a crit today. Stepping into the fountain. Not going to chase further than he needs to. The rest of G2 Esports are on the Nexus turrets. Perks once more than the double, stepping forward, getting all the shields, getting all the heal. Nexus turret number 2 is the focus, and Perks is keeping 3 members of the Flash Wolves inside their fountain. Caps dashes in and forced a flash out. The Nexus being ignored for now. The Winions are doing more damage. All of a sudden, Betty takes a couple of axes to the face as the Nexus goes down. G2 guarantee themselves a shot at the playoffs.
And another decisive victory for G2 Esports. The early game, once again, they